Hi, this is Dan Devlin for the Detective Dan Devlin Show, Honorable People, Honorable Nation. Welcome to our show. Today we're going to talk about ourselves. Pretty good topic, huh? And it's important for us all, when we're going to set out and try to accomplish anything, to understand our own deficiencies, really, and our own capabilities. And I'm going to focus on, probably unpopularly focus on, our deficiencies. Because in order to be successful at some of the things we're trying to accomplish, if we don't understand our failures, the things that often keep us from accomplishing the things that we want, if we don't understand that, how could we possibly expect to succeed? So in many respects, by the time this program is over, you'll understand more about how you can exceed at almost anything, or succeed at virtually anything you're trying to accomplish. So in looking at ourselves, and really that's the only person that we have control over. And sure, we can control some of the things that other people do. We can force people to do some things. But those of you who know me understand that I often use Scripture to reflect upon where we're going and what we should be doing as individuals and as a society. And Scripture would bear out the understanding that we need to look at ourselves, and most of you will probably understand the parable, the story, about the individual who was trying to remove something from another person's eye, and it's used figuratively. And we're told that before we can do that, we need to remove the plank from our eye. In Scripture, actually, I think, refers to the splinter in someone else's eye. And that symbolism is that oftentimes we're so flawed, and we're trying to straighten out other people, and we haven't straightened out ourselves. And this is an important concept in anything that we try to accomplish. Of course, recently we've looked at what we're doing as a society with our governmental entities. We're of course blaming politicians, and recently we've had a situation where the March for Life, that has to do with those who believe that abortion is wrong, go to Washington and they express their opinion. They're trying to influence legislators in order to protect young individuals in the womb. And yet many other groups take that opportunity to voice their opinion as well. And those of you who have been paying attention to the news, we know that there was a group of young men from a Catholic high school who were approached by someone who was an indigenous person, from a tribe here in the United States, who claimed to have been a Vietnam veteran. And he approached those students, beating a drum, almost in the face of one young man. And the massive number of individuals from the media and from the entertainment industry who wound up condemning this young man rather than seeing that he was approached by someone who obviously wanted to get into his space, as we would normally say, and who would try to push and aggravate this young individual to try to get some response, which then in turn he could plead that he was the victim. And that's exactly what happened. But he wasn't able to disturb this young man, and I give this young man tremendous credit for standing his ground and not falling prey to what this individual wanted him to do, which was to become angry and maybe even violent. Just prior to that, another group of demonstrators were calling these young men all kinds of names, very vulgar names. And again, the young people there, and I can't speak for all of them because I don't know exactly what was said, but it appears as though they held their tongues for the most part and did not become violent, which of course they could have done. But one of the things that spectators would see about that particular group is they had on red baseball caps that said, "Make America Great Again." And that was used by many of the members of the media and Hollywood types to paint them as racist and individuals who would not respect anyone else's rights whatsoever. The language and the attacks, the threats of violent behavior on the part of these so-called caring people from these various groups, including the media, the Hollywood individuals, the entertainment industry, people who represented the tribes or the association that these individuals who were the agitators were aligned with. Those people jumped on these teenage young men, and it was not unusual to hear the expressions of how bad they were because they were white and they dared to be there in order to protest anything, let alone the destruction of our unborn descendants in the womb. This has become a time, and hopefully you've been with me a while. I'm not a young man anymore. So I've been around. And in my background in law enforcement and in the military, I've seen people who have been very aggressive. But I don't remember a time when people have been so vicious, especially those in the media, who are so nasty, vengeful, insightful, and I have to add ignorant. Because these are people who would never want to be treated that way themselves. And our program for today is really about as thyself. If we would truly treat people as we wish to be treated, we would change the whole landscape of American society. Now that holds true, and many of you know my position on the destruction of our unborn descendants in the womb through the procedure known as abortion. And with the people that I've talked to over the years, oftentimes I'll get this, well, I don't agree with it, but what can I do? But as I explained to them, what would you expect of me? If I was present when a group of people decided they were going to eliminate you, they grabbed a hold of you, they took you over to a tree, they tied you to that tree, and expressed to you that they were going to dismember you. They were going to cut you apart while you're still alive, and then they were going to kill you. And my question to that individual, and I've done that on a number of occasions in order to make a point, is would you want me, as a person who is a spectator, who knows that this stuff is going on, would you want me to do something? And what would you want me to do? And because our time is limited, I'll tell you exactly what the normal course of action is. And that is that most of them say, well, of course. My response, well, you realize I could get hurt? And would you still want me to do it? Well, yes. I can't do anything for myself. You should get people together and come help me, or, call the police, or, do something. Why? Because they are now desperate, and they want somebody to recognize their humanity and their need for somebody to help them. Recently, we've also talked about some of the situations with, many situations. You can see it every day in the news. And now with the internet, you can see it even more. People who are victimized, innocent people who are victimized by brutal people who do hideous things and ultimately violently hurt and often kill their victim. And yet, when I talk about these things, many people, it does not register to them that that could be them. And that there are things that we could do in order to help prevent these things. But I've got to be honest with you, the vast majority of people, and the vast majority of people of you who are watching this program, and I want you to wrestle with your soul on this issue. Because we both know, and all the people listening know, that when it comes to us and the injustices that are happening to us, we of course want people to help and prevent us from being injured or killed. But these same people, when they know that these things go on with others, the abortion issue is a good example. Recently, the New York State Legislature, now controlled by Democrats in the Assembly and in the Senate, and of course the governor is a Democrat. And they've been waiting for this time when the Republicans have virtually no power, and that's what happened in this last election, is there weren't enough Republicans elected or re-elected to the state Senate, and so therefore Democrats are now in the majority and have the power, and the governor recognized that opportunity and let everyone know that he is going to do the things that they've wanted to do for years. And so they passed a so-called law that extends the time at which a woman can have an abortion, can do whatever is necessary in order to eliminate the continued existence, the life of that individual who could be born in a matter of seconds. And even if it is born, there's a question now as to, because the intent was to kill or eliminate that individual in the womb, we know that around the country some people are taking ones who have been born by mistake. They didn't die in the womb, and so they've been born alive, and they're put on a shelf somewhere in that facility and allowed to starve to death or from exposure to the elements perish. Every single person knows out there that if they were treated that way, they would want other people to come to their aid and to keep them from being abused and eliminated, killed, destroyed. And it's important to know that we as human beings, if you happen to be a Christian, and Governor Cuomo claims to be a Catholic. And the Catholic Church has come out against abortion. And yet, this individual who claims, and actually in their celebration, said, God bless various people. Could anyone seriously expect God to bless the people who are destroying what their own religion says is something that He created? This is insanity. And my point here today is that if we go by the principle, and it's a fundamental Christian principle, is to treat others as ourselves. And if we would really do that, there would be no question about our responsibilities towards others. And we would somehow find the courage to confront these individuals. Now, again, if you've been watching, you know my position on that whole issue of what people call abortion. It destroys our posterity, who are named in the Constitution to be treated exactly as ourselves. The Constitution of the United States says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to two groups, ourselves and our posterity. Our posterity is all our descendants until the end of time, including those in the womb. And yet, while we want all the benefits of the federal government, we want the Constitution behind us, I can't even say it. I get so upset that we would violate this fundamental principle that is the foundation of our government. It's up to us to make sure that we follow these principles because, one, they're sound principles, but they're principles that every single one of us wants in place. Every single one of us wants to be one of those people who's named in the Constitution to receive its benefits, its blessings, its protections. Every single one of us wants that. But I'm here to tell you my position is this. If we don't respect, honor, protect, defend those of the other group that is named clearly in the Constitution, right alongside us, then my position is you, as one of the people called ourselves, should and do not have one single right or protection under that Constitution if we don't provide those same things to each one of our posterity, including those in the womb. And from now on, that is my clear position. Anyone who believes that they have a right to destroy those individuals who are clearly named in the Constitution, those who refuse to treat them as ourselves, as the Constitution requires, is an enemy of the United States. They are a traitor to the United States. They have no right, they have no protection under that Constitution. And that includes the governor of New York State and all those legislators who voted to allow the abuse and violent destruction of those who are named in the Constitution to receive the exact same benefits as ourselves. It is about, as ourselves, to treat, forget the Constitution, throw it away if you want. But if I would talk to any individual who has voted for this, who has celebrated this, you and I both know, and they would either agree or they would remain silent, they would know that they would never want to be treated the way that they have just voted to treat our posterity in the womb. It's about time to be educated. We need to commit ourselves to understand what is going on in American society. We're at a pivotal point where either reason and sanity is going to prevail, or as we've taken these steps, and pretty large steps, towards insanity, towards the whole concept of using reason, wisdom, good judgment is openly accepted as the wrong way to go about things, and to go by the premise of whatever I want, I should have. And you should know that I've written fairly extensively on the whole idea of rights. And someone approached me the other day and they said, well, I have a right. And then they said, well, it's a God-given right. Well, if it's a God-given right and people don't believe in God, how are they supposed to recognize your rights? To me, rights are based upon mutual agreement. It's I'll honor these rights for you that we have spoken about, and we'll understand what they're about, if you'll do the same for me. And as long as neither of us violate these rights that we've already agreed that we'll possess, then everything goes fine. But as soon as we do not adhere to those rights, everything falls apart. And that's where we are in American society. People want the right to protest, but they don't want other people to have that right to protest. They don't want to be confronted, but they think that they have a right to go ahead and confront people, call them names, simply because they have a different point of view. People of a certain race feel as though they've been, abused by members of another race, and so they feel justified in labeling every single person of that race as an evil person, when they're not responsible for what their ancestors have done. And even if they were, oftentimes we don't care enough about the truth to examine the real issues and who was at fault where. For years, I've spoken about these issues. I've talked to people, across the country, in some foreign countries, people certainly all over the state of New York. And there are many people who are trying to do things in order to make us a better society. One that believes in human dignity, respect for others, understanding that we are all different. No two of us are exactly the same. And an honorable society, and you know that this program is named not just the Detective Dan Devlin Show, but honorable people, honorable nation. That should be our goal. When our leaders act dishonorably, when they speak so viciously and they try to tear down young people, for example, in this recent event, they are sowing the seeds of discontent, and I am absolutely convinced that they're stoking that fire, and they want physically violent conflict because it serves them well. Oftentimes people think, well, everyone would want peace. We should be kind to everyone. No one should be violent. And I remind people, if you don't think violence can be a good thing, be attacked by somebody, be ready to be killed, and you'll be praying that somebody would come along that would be more violent than those people so they could keep them from harming you. we have an obligation, and probably the most important thing that you need to take away from this is that, yes, we need to treat people as we wish to be treated. We need to treat them with the respect that we want them to treat us with. But also, none of this happens if you don't hold yourself accountable. Currently, we talk about politicians. We say they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that, they're doing this wrong, they're violating the Constitution. And what do we do about it? The vast majority of us, the vast majority of us say nothing other than complain, and instead we allow it to go on and on and on. The whole idea of accomplishing what is right and just is based upon holding those who will not do what is right and just accountable. And unless we decide to work together, and you need to get together with people who are like-minded and those who are of similar mind, and drop the petty little issues and work together in order to defeat evil which is happening and threatening this great nation of ours. It's all up to you. And I say it's up to you because I am doing my part. And I've worked most of my life, and yet most of the people around me would never risk one thing in order to help me. It's a sad scenario. Go to our website, either FundamentalHumanRights.Org, and we have a number of them. Honorable People, Honorable Nation. Go to ProtectOurPosterity.org and help us do what needs to be done. It is up to you. I don't know any other way but to be truthful with you and to give you the opportunity to stand up. And if you're a person of opposition, get together with those people who believe differently and try to see, in my experiences, when it comes down to the fundamentals, we all agree. None of us want to be treated the way we're allowing other people to be treated. It's up to you. God bless you all. You have a great day. And I hope we can work together because it's very important for our future.